Every great empire begins quietly, not with a trumpet, not with a coronation, not with the world watching. It begins with a moment that most people ignore, a decision, a choice. A man stepping forward when history is not yet decided. His name is worth remembering. For the Ottoman Empire, that moment did not belong to its founder, Osman. It belonged to his son, a ruler who inherited uncertainty, not glory, a fragile frontier state, not a throne. His name was Orhan, and without him, the Ottomans would never have become an empire. When Orhan took power around 1323, the Ottoman state was small, vulnerable, and surrounded by enemies. It sat on the edge of the collapsing Byzantine world, pressed between powerful Turkish rivals, uncertain alliances, and constant warfare. His father Osman had built momentum through raids and territorial gains, but momentum alone does not build a future. It fades. It collapses. It must be shaped. Orhan understood something his father had only begun to sense. Conquest without structure is temporary. Survival requires more than courage. It requires systems. His first great challenge was the city of Bursa. It was not just another target. It was a fortified Byzantine stronghold, wealthy, strategic, and symbolic. If the Ottomans could take Bursa, they would no longer be seen as wandering warriors. Orhan did not rush it. When Bursa finally fell in 1326, Orhan did not celebrate like a raider. He made it his capital. And with that decision, everything changed. For the first time, the Ottomans had a real center of power, a city to govern from. Future. Established mosques, markets, baths, and public institutions. He turned it into a functioning capital. This was not just about architecture. It was about identity. The Ottomans were no longer a tribe. They were a state. And Orhan did not stop there. He began creating what no Turkish ruler before him had fully developed: administration. He appointed officials, organized taxation, recorded land ownership, and introduced written law. He minted coins in his own name, not as a symbol of ego, but as a declaration of legitimacy. This land had a ruler. This state had continuity. This power was not temporary. But perhaps Orhan's most important decision was invisible at first. He reimagined the army. Till then, most Turkish forces were tribal fighters, loyal but inconsistent, brave but unpredictable. Orhan wanted something different. He wanted discipline. He wanted soldiers who served the state, not their own clans. This idea would later evolve into the Janissary system, but its roots began here. Under Orhan, the Ottoman military became organized, salaried, and professional. This changed everything, because a professional army does not disappear after battle. It remains. It trains. It prepares. Orhan was not a ruler driven by endless bloodshed. He preferred strategy over spectacle. When possible, he used marriage alliances, diplomacy, and political absorption instead of destruction. One of his wives was a Byzantine princess. This was not romance. This was power. Through marriage, Orhan gained influence without war. He allowed conquered populations to keep their religions, traditions, and local leaders. He did not try to erase them. He incorporated them. This reduced rebellion, created loyalty. People did not always fear Ottoman rule. Many accepted it. And that was dangerous. It's because when people accept you, they stop resisting. As the Byzantine Empire weakened, Orhan watched carefully. He did not rush. He waited for an opportunity. And in 1354, it arrived not through war, but through nature. An earthquake struck the fortress of Gallipoli, weakening its defenses. Orhan's forces moved in. This was the first permanent Ottoman foothold in Europe. And most people at the time did not understand what that meant. But Orhan did. For centuries, empires had fought over Anatolia. East versus West, Christianity versus Islam, Rome versus the Turkic world. He wanted to cross it. Gallipoli was not just land, it was a doorway. But Orhan did not want to stay on the border. Through that doorway would one day march armies that reshaped Europe. But Orhan would not live to see that. What he would see was something just as important: stability. Under Orhan, the Ottomans became predictable, organized, governed. They had laws, taxes, courts, soldiers, and cities. They were no longer dependent on the charisma of a single ruler. They had become a system. Systems outlive men. By the time Orhan died in 1362, he left behind a state that was no longer fragile. His son, Murad I, did not inherit chaos. He inherited a machine designed for expansion. This is why Orhan matters. Osman founded the Ottomans, but Orhan made them permanent. He did not just expand territory, built institutions. He did not just conquer land. He designed governance. History often remembers conquerors because their victories are loud. He did not just win battles. He created continuity. Orhan was not loud. He was deliberate. Deliberate power lasts. It forgets builders because their work is quiet. But without builders, conquests collapse. He did not just rise to power. He transformed power. And in doing so, he laid the foundations for an empire that would last over 600 years. If Osman was the spark, Orhan was the fire that never went out. Now here's the question. If Orhan had failed, there would have been no Mehmed the Conqueror, no Suleiman the Magnificent, no Ottoman Empire stretching across 3 continents. History would have gone in a completely different direction.